Welcome to our channel where we dive into the depths of mysterious tales. Today we bring you a chilling story of a fisherman named Jack, whose ordinary night at sea turns into a haunting encounter that will leave you breathless. This story takes you on a journey through the dark waters of the sea, where not everything is as it seems. What starts as a routine fishing trip quickly spirals into a nightmarish ordeal. Are you ready to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the waves? Prepare yourself for Fisherman, a story of suspense, mystery, and the unknown.
Fisherman. Jack was an experienced fisherman and living in a small coastal village near Miami, Florida. The sea was his livelihood, and he had been fishing since he was a young boy. Despite the simplicity and routine of his life, Jack was content. The sea was familiar, and he knew its rhythms like the back of his hand. One fateful day, however, everything changed. It was a dark, stormy night during hurricane season. The sky was covered in thick clouds, and the waves of the sea were unusually turbulent. Jack set out in his small trawler as dusk fell, knowing that the best catches were often found in the deep waters late at night. By the time he reached the open sea, it was well past midnight. The world around him was pitch black, with only the faint light from his boat's lantern to guide him. Jack began fishing, but soon he felt that something was different about this night. The depth of the sea, the cold touch of the wind, and the ominous sound of the waves all combined to create a sense of unease within him. He tried to dismiss it, thinking it was just his tired mind playing tricks. After a while, Jack decided to take a break and cook a simple meal in his small galley. As he started to prepare his food, he heard an unusual sound coming from outside. At first, he thought it was just the waves, but the noise persisted, growing louder and more distinct. It was as if something was moving in the water close to his boat. Curious, Jack stepped out to investigate. To his shock, he saw something floating near his boat. Initially, he thought it might be a piece of driftwood or debris, but as he leaned closer, his heart skipped a beat. It wasn't debris. It was a man's body. The body was eerily still, floating on the surface of the water. The man's skin was pale, and his eyes were open, staring blankly into the night. There were no visible injuries, but the expression on the man's face was one of deep anguish, as if he had suffered greatly before his death. Jack, though apprehensive, managed to pull the body onto his boat. He laid it gently on the deck and stood back, his mind racing with questions. Who was this man? How had he ended up in the middle of the sea? And why did his face bear such a haunting expression? As Jack pondered these questions, he noticed something even more unsettling. The man's eyes, which had been fixed on the sky, seemed to shift slightly, almost as if they were following Jack's movements. A cold shiver ran down Jack's spine as he realized this. He felt an overwhelming presence on his boat, as if he were not alone. The atmosphere around him grew heavier, and the air seemed to thicken with an unknown force. Jack, though unnerved, stayed still, watching the body closely. Suddenly, he heard a faint, almost imperceptible whispering sound. It was as if the wind was carrying voices, speaking in a language he couldn't understand. Then, from the shadows at the far end of the boat, a figure began to emerge. It was a shape, barely human, made of darkness itself. The figure had no distinct features, only glowing eyes that stared directly at Jack. It was not a man, but something beyond his comprehension, an entity of pure shadow. Jack's heart raced as the shadowy figure slowly approached him. He wanted to run, to escape, but his legs felt like they were anchored to the deck. The figure drew closer, and as it did, the whispering grew louder, filling Jack's mind with fear. In a desperate attempt to save himself, Jack grabbed a knife from the deck and flung it at the figure. But the blade passed right through the shadow, as if it were made of smoke. The figure halted for a moment, then began to advance again, its eyes glowing brighter. Realizing he had no other choice, Jack made a split-second decision. He leaped off the side of the boat into the cold, dark waters below. The sea was rough, and the waves threatened to pull him under, but Jack fought with all his strength to stay afloat. He swam towards the shore, driven by sheer willpower and the primal urge to survive. Behind him, the shadowy figure watched from the boat, its glowing eyes the last thing Jack saw before he turned away and focused on reaching the land. Hours later, as dawn broke, Jack finally reached the shore, exhausted but alive. He collapsed on the sand, breathing heavily, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just happened. When he looked back at the sea, his boat was there, but there was no sign of the body or the shadowy figure. Jack returned to his village, forever changed by the events of that night. He never spoke of what he had seen, knowing that no one would believe him. The memory of that mysterious encounter stayed with him, a constant reminder of the unknown lurking in the deep sea. From that day on, Jack avoided the deep waters, choosing to fish only near the shore. He had learned a valuable lesson. There are forces in the world that defy understanding, and sometimes it's best to respect the unknown and stay within the bounds of what is safe. Jack's life returned to its routine, but the shadow of that night always lingered at the edges of his mind, a haunting reminder of the deep, dark secrets that the sea still held. Jack's experience reminds us that the sea, like life, holds mysteries we may never fully understand. Sometimes it's best to respect the unknown and stay within the bounds of what we know.
What did you think of Jack's eerie encounter? Could it happen to someone else? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned for our next video, where we explore another mysterious event that will leave you questioning reality itself. Until then, keep your eyes open. There's more to this world than meets the eye.